welcome today, Sarah. It's so good to have you here today.
Thank you so much, James. I'm really excited to be here.
Excellent. Now, Sarah, we know most governments are suffering from severe budget shortfalls due to the impact of COVID-19. And, I know many fleets will simply try to push out any capital expenditure, just say, can't afford it now, let's push it out. How can we encourage public fleets to actually shift to EVs? We know that there's higher capital costs, but what are the ways that we can go to them and say, hey, look, this is worthwhile. Even though it's a difficult time, let's move forward.
Yeah, it's a really good question. And, we really know firsthand the immense challenges that cities are facing right now. We work with over 200 public fleets who are looking to purchase EVs this year and next, and have a really gained a depth of experience of how cities and others across the country are tackling the issues of electrifying their fleets. And just overall, it's been really incredible to see how mayors and cities are leading and leveraging all of the local organizations and cooperations to make change. And I know we'll hear from Catherine and Mike in Denver and Charlotte, who can really give us some of their firsthand experience. But there are a couple things that we at the Electrification Coalition really like to share with fleets and help bring them to the electrification stage. So I think the single biggest thing that a fleet can do is to calculate a total cost of ownership. And so this takes a look at how far a vehicle drives over the year, the local costs of gas and electricity. So it's really exact to where a fleet is, maintenance and vehicle costs. And so, as everybody for the most part knows, that EVs do cost more upfront, but in most cases, they are cheaper over the course of their lifetime if implemented in the right use. And so there are simple online calculation tools that public fleets can use. There's more complex tools that are out there. The Electrification Coalition, we're a nonprofit, nonpartisan group focused on facilitating the transition to electric. We can help you. And additionally, cities can also utilize their telematics data. There's software that's out there that can help analyze an actual vehicle mileage and cost and give that exact information to determine if an EV is the right fit. So there's a lot of different levels of going through this total cost of ownership calculation that can really kind of give the data to show the cost savings that are available for electric vehicles. And actually in Cincinnati, we did this with a telematics assessment with 11 vehicles and found that they would save $150,000 in operational costs and see a 17% reduction in average total cost of ownership. So that's an example that really kind of showcases the exciting things that can happen if you do that kind of calculation.
Very cool, Sarah. Just before we go on, I just really want to encourage the audience to send through questions, because I know Sarah's got so much experience here. And one of the things that you just said that really struck me was that $150,000 number, to be able to go to another public fleet and say, hey, you can save 150 grand over X period of time that you have these vehicles. What are fleets saying to that when you come up with these numbers about these savings in total cost of operation?
It's really exciting. It really kind of showcases to all departments across the city where the savings are, and can really just give that confidence in the decision-making process with the sustainability manager, the fleet manager, the procurement folks. So just all across the city, and also gives mayors those numbers that they can really showcase what kind of good changes they're making for their taxpayers. For air quality and money saving and all of those good things. So, it's all very exciting. And I think that having access to that kind of information is really pivotal for cities that are looking to transition.
Totally. I'm sure if you go into those managers and say, look, I have these savings, then they can go to the mayor or to the, I guess the people who are voted for, and, they can show these, what they've done. That's a real winner for everyone, right?
Yes, definitely. And something else too is just being able to make those numbers very specific to an actual city. So like I said, taking into account, I'm in California, my electricity cost is very high, but so is my gas cost. So like really having just those local metrics as well to highlight the exact example.
Yeah, very cool. Like, this is a question from Patrick McGuinness. Do you see advantages to either carrot or stick approaches when transitioning vehicles, particularly say diesel trucks to electric trucks in ports or, you know, specific areas within the city? What do you see in when you're applying that sort of understanding to public fleets? How does that work for you?
Yeah, so this something else that I wanted to point out that kind of relates to this question is something that cities can also do right now in a time of budget shortage is this EV first policy.
Mm-hmm.
And so passing policies that support EV adoption, even if they don't have the purchasing power this year, to set them up for success in the future.
Right.
And I think that kind of relates to the carrot idea. And so as an example, and I know, you know, Denver and Charlotte are great examples of this. And then also in Albuquerque, we just worked to pass an EV first policy for them, which is basically an innocent until proven guilty model for,
right.
you know, they have to purchase an EV unless they prove that they need a gas vehicle for, you know, there are uses, generally public safety, a vehicle that needs 4-wheel drive or it goes over, you know, high clearance for a certain kind of terrain. It drives a really, really long distance every day, all of those kinds of metrics that are set that are for the city. And so that really sets the city up for success. And I think within an actual city, it's more about those kinds of policies and kind of less about a carrot and stick approach, because for a public fleet, they really need it to work for them, and the budget is a really big concern. You know, you can't spend more money than you have at the local level. And so in California particularly, you know, there are a lot of rules and regulations about transitioning fleets, but there just is a need to kind of actually make it happen on the local level. And so we're really interested in helping the cities and counties and universities and all kind of public fleets make it realistic for them, because they need the knowledge and the money to do it, or the understanding of how the budget will play out.
Yeah, totally. I have a question again from Tony Shorthouse here. Is there any noticeable anxiety about switching fleets to EV due to charging or power grid infrastructure, or, you know, what are those issues that you see coming up that you know, you regularly have to say, you know, I know this is a concern, but this is how we address it, or this is why we address it. What are those key concerns that public fleets come to you with?
Yep. And another kind of cool thing about the project that I manage, the Climate Mayor's EV Purchasing Collaborative, is that we work with these 200 plus fleets. And so we have a really good idea of what challenges others are facing and can facilitate peer exchanges that really kind of help fleet manager to fleet manager, or whoever it might be, discuss those challenges and understand, you know, from like a trusted peer, in addition to someone like the Electrification Coalition. And so charging infrastructure, you know, that is definitely a big challenge. And that's one that's just showcasing what others have done. You know, I know in Sacramento, they use the savings from their EVs to fund their charging infrastructure. So just knowing those kinds of creative solutions around the costs of charging, basic education around charging infrastructure, and just range anxiety about really looking at how far a vehicle drives, and just making sure everybody that and employees that will be driving understand, you know, that they really will be okay, and making sure that you're putting the right vehicle, as I said, in the right use case, so that everybody is in a position to be successful. Another one too is education for staff, you know, mechanics. That's another big concern that usually comes up with fleet managers, and that's something where manufacturers of the vehicles actually offer training. There's a lot of community college coursework, especially in California, that is now available to mechanics. So that's just kind of, we know where a lot of these resources are to help solve some of these, you know, initial concerns that fleet managers have that haven't ever even driven an EV or thought about how to put them in their fleet. So.
Right, amazing. We've got one quick question before we finish up and move on. Despite the lower costs, this is from Felix Evans, despite the lower costs of TCO and electric school buses and 500,000 school buses in the US, the upfront cost can be prohibitively expensive. Why is this the case, and how can we accelerate the electrification of school buses? Now, I know we've covered some of this, but is there something in particular in school buses that you've been seeing that's really important for public fleets to understand?
I think with school buses, the biggest thing right now from my perspective, and interested to hear what other panelists kind of know about this, because I really do mostly work on the light duty side, but a lot of the funding for that comes from, VW settlement or other state programs that might be out there. And so a lot of school districts don't have the money because an electric school bus is significantly more expensive than a diesel school bus. And so finding those opportunities that are out there right now and understanding how to apply for that funding and implementing the technology is really kind of the most important thing. The collaborative will actually be adding some additional school bus vendors that will help bring the cost down a little bit through the cooperative purchasing mechanism of the program. But it's definitely a newer field and one that is very expensive. And so there's a couple examples out there, and it's a really exciting space because that really impacts air quality, and especially for school-age children. So it's very exciting, but yes, definitely challenges.
Now, one thing, I'm going to put you all on the spot. I want each of you to give like a very brief 1 second, a few words or one sentence summary of what you think the future of the cities is with electric vehicles. Sarah, what are your closing thoughts?
Yes, I totally agree with this off on the innovation and the creative solutions piece. That's really important. And then also just to add something on seeing the market continue to grow and fit the needs of cities. One thing that we hear a lot is just waiting for that electric pickup truck. So, once those kinds of options are available, we'll really continue to see this take off in fleets.